The anime begins by showing a man named Dariel, who is a member of the demon race. Dariel is not just any demon, he is known as the Dark Warrior. When Dariel seeks an audience with the leaders of the demon race, the four pillars of the demons, he is shocked. He is informed that he is to be expelled from the Demon King's army. Bashbarza, the second-generation king of the four pillars of demons, believes that Dariel is unfit for the army because he is at the lowest rank and unable to use magic like the others. Dariel, now outside the castle, starts to ponder over the words of the four pillars. He realizes that demons have always been in conflict with humans, and despite their similar appearances, the ability to use magic is the differentiating factor. Feeling humiliated for being a demon unable to use magic, Dariel begins to feel downcast, staring at his hands in despair. As Dariel descends the stairs, he is approached by a demon soldier named Lizard. Despite Lizard addressing him as the Dark Warrior, he proceeds to insult Dariel for being a low-ranking demon. Unaffected by Lizard's words, Dariel simply tells him to call him by his name. Just as Dariel is feeling hopeless, a girl named Malika, being chased by a monster, appears. Dariel tries to defend them by attacking the monster, getting hit in the process. Seeing a knife dropped by Malika, Dariel hesitates, knowing that using human weapons is considered shameful for demons. However, Dariel realizes that it doesn't matter anymore. When the monster attacks him, he instinctively stabs it with the knife, surprising himself with his swift action. Exiting the forest, Malika takes Dariel to her village, Locke's village. Grateful, Dariel follows Malika into her house to express his thanks, where he meets Malika's parents. Dariel remains silent, still feeling like he's in human territory. The next day, Malika's father offers Dariel a job as an adventurer in the village. Meanwhile, their father is a former adventurer who has now become the leader of the union, but he still wants Dariel to become an adventurer because he thinks that Dariel's body is still fit and capable enough to be an adventurer. That's why he considers Dariel should become one. Father Malika then took out a paper with a magic circle drawn on it to register Dariel as an adventurer. Seeing this, Dariel immediately became wary of the registration ritual because there used to be many demon spies who were badly hurt by the ritual, so in his opinion, only a human could perform the registration ritual. Therefore, Dariel tried to make excuses by pretending to be in great pain, but their father immediately asked his daughter to perform the registration ritual. Hearing this, they stabbed Dariel using a sharp needle, prompting him to quickly place his hand on the paper. Unexpectedly, Dariel got the mark of an adventurer on his hand. Seeing this, Dariel became very confused because he always thought of himself as a demon. But in reality, Dariel was a normal human there. Then he remembered the demon who found and cared for him, Grand Verza, the demon king of the first generation of the Four Pillars demon, which is why Dariel was employed as a soldier by the demon king. However, it all ended when Dariel was fired by the demon king of the second generation of the Four Pillars, so now he lived in Locke village as a human after registering. Father Maria would teach Dariel to become an adventurer, and first, he would teach Dariel how to use aura. Aura is a power possessed by all humans there, which adventurers can use to coat protective gear in future battles. Therefore, Dariel was asked to choose a weapon he wanted. Dariel chose a sword to channel aura because he thought the aura he was learning now was very similar to the magic exercises he had done before, even though he couldn't feel anything before but now. Dariel easily used his aura, and after successfully mastering aura, Father Malika would find out the type of Dariel's aura. There are 4 types of aura used for adventurers' weapon selection, and first, Dariel was asked to perform a slashing movement, but to do that, Dariel had to be able to chop down a very large tree trunk. Inside, Dariel felt very hesitant because it was the first time he held a sword, but he immediately became very happy after being encouraged by Marga there, so Dariel tried to focus so he could split the large tree trunk. Dariel's intention was just to cut one side, but it turned out he could split the tree very easily, which surprised him at how strong his aura was. Then, for the second test, Dariel had to perform a stringing movement, and Dariel was able to perform the movement very easily. Seeing that made Malika's father very surprised by its greatness, but their father also felt a little annoyed by her talent, while on the third type. Dariel was asked to perform a hit bluff there, and of course Dariel was able to do it perfectly because Dariel could crush a large rock with just one blow. While for the last type, it was a movement to be able to defend there, but Maria's father was very annoyed by Dariel's talent, so he asked Dariel to be able to withstand his father's hammer attacks using only a wooden shield. So their father immediately attacked Dariel very seriously. But once again Dariel was able to exceed their father's expectations. In fact, their father was thrown backward because he couldn't penetrate Dariel's defense. The conclusion of the training was that Dariel's aura suited all types of weapons he wanted to use. Therefore, their father suggested to Dariel to go to a broader world because he didn't want to confine a great person like Dariel in such a small village. Then Malika's father, who is also the village chief, introduced Dariel to the villagers, while Dariel also introduced himself very politely because now he would become a resident of Locke's village. His attitude made people very calm because before they were worried about Dariel coming from outside their village. Dariel considered it a very good beginning. But there was a man who didn't agree with Dariel's arrival, and that man's name was Gashida. Gashida was the only adventurer in Locke's village, and he came there, immediately boasting that he had reached rank D. After that, it was shown that Malika's father remembered that the monster was a very tough monster called Etmon, and besides that, Gashida was someone who had been hunting it for half a month. So when Gashida found out that his mission had been completed by Dariel earlier, it made him very angry. Some time later, Dariel went to the forest with them. Dariel tried to suggest to Malika that she could just go back to the village because in his opinion, the forest would be very dangerous. But they were still enthusiastic about going into the forest. Then suddenly a deer appeared hiding behind the bushes there, but instead of being frightened, the deer became more aggressive and immediately fought against the ant monster. Seeing that, they immediately prepared weapons to capture both monsters. Meanwhile, Dariel quickly followed them to capture the deer along with the monster. Some time later, Dariel and Malika returned to the village while bringing their prey, and their Gashida became very angry because the ant monster defeated by Dariel was the one he was looking for. So Gashida left while throwing away his mission paper that had been completed by Dariel earlier. Not only that, Dariel began to feel anxious about something, so he didn't want to ignore his anxiety. So he hurried to the place where the snake monster had passed by. Then the real one began to question the adventurers who were surrounding the monster. It turned out that there was only Gashida there, alone, being chased by the snake monster. Seeing that, Dariel immediately prepared to fight, risking his life. So he started to coat his weapon with aura because he wanted to seriously fight against the monster. Not only that, he also thought that he might end up dead if he got careless for a moment. However, the snake monster only wanted to chase Gashida, who had resisted by shooting arrows at it, but the monster's skin was very tough. So Dariel started attacking the monster with his sword, but his attacks were too shallow. Because of that, Dariel was counterattacked by the snake monster, and his sword was destroyed. This made Dariel think to combine our movements and Sting's movements. Finally, Dariel threw sword fragments to kill the snake monster. The next day, Gashida began to call Dariel a bang because she wanted to respect Dariel who had saved her life, but it made them both uncomfortable and eventually they started arguing with Gashida there. Even their argument touched on the Demon King's army, while on the other side, the 4 pillars of the demon were discussing because one of them had been defeated by the hero party. The member of the 4 pillars of the demon referred to was named Zebiantist. But Zebiantist started to argue that he didn't know the hero had gained new fighting companions. Not only that, the new companion of the hero was a spear user, which made Bashbarza ask why Zebiantist didn't get information about the hero party's new strength. This is because before a fight, it is the basis of war. Zebiantist, feeling cornered, began to blame the advisor present in the discussion. After that, Gashida was shown starting to join the adventure to complete the mission of finding medicinal plants together with Dariel. Meanwhile, Dariel was very annoyed with Gashida who kept babbling on their journey, but he still felt grateful because Gashida wasn't his enemy anymore. Not only that, Dariel also had a new problem, Malika, who liked him too much. When he returned home, Malika greeted him with a tragic hug, grabbing the map requested by her father. And when Dariel asked his father about the village, Malika immediately explained why some houses were empty and uninhabited there. It turned out that the village was very prosperous because it was very close to the mithril mine. Meanwhile, mithril itself is a metal with very unique properties and can be made into weapons that have unparalleled performance. The next day, Dariel immediately visited the mithril mine and also visited an old friend. It turned out that Dariel negotiated with them to be able to sell some material to the villagers so that the residents could also benefit later on. Even though Dariel was a soldier from the demon race, he still secretly entered there, but his disguise was in vain because there wasn't a single guard from the demon race there, not even inside the mine, and there were no residents either. Suddenly, Dariel saw a demon child with a very dark face, and it turned out they were all acquaintances of Dariel, so they were very happy to meet him. The demon children immediately told Dariel that they had to gather a large amount of mithril. Hearing this, Dariel started asking them why they were doing this, so they answered about who ordered them all, but they forgot the name of their supervisor, which made them start arguing there, so eventually Dariel assumed that Bashbarza was the one who ordered them. Suddenly, the demon children began to cry there. Not only that, they also said that when Dariel became the supervisor in the mine, they were all very happy, which was very different from now because some workers had been sent home to reduce their expenses, while the demon children were forced to work there, making them very eager to escape. Hearing this made Dariel very sad, but he couldn't do anything anymore because he was no longer a soldier of the demon race. Then suddenly, a supervisor responsible for the mine appeared, while Dariel hid while watching them all. But the supervisor became angry because the demon children were considered to have sabotaged the mine's results even though the demon children were unable and it was impossible to work in mining mithril. Because they complained a lot, the supervisor immediately used his magic to scare the demon children. Then suddenly one of the demon children resisted and hit the head of the supervisor with his shovel. Seeing this made the supervisor very angry with him, so he asked his soldiers to kill the demon children. And when one of the demon troops began reciting his incantation, Dariel immediately thwarted it. Therefore, he emerged as a hero figure for them. Not only that, Dariel also wore a mask made from underwear, telling the overseer to retreat, or else he would become their opponent later. However, suddenly Dariel sensed a very strange smell. Even one of the demon kids screamed because he lost his underwear, which he had placed there. This made Dariel realize that the smell he smelled was coming from the mask he was wearing. But unwillingly, Dariel had to keep wearing the mask to avoid being discovered later. Meanwhile, the overseer immediately accused Dariel of inciting the demon kids to oppose him. Therefore, the commander directly ordered his troops to kill the demon kids and also Dariel there. Hearing that, Dariel had to reluctantly resist. But because he didn't want to hurt the demon troops, Dariel borrowed underwear from one of the demon kids to tie his sword sheath. Then, when the demon troops were reciting their incantations, Dariel launched his attack. Not only that, the demon kids also joined in the attack, but the demon troops kicked them all instead. Seeing that, Dariel remembered the very professional duty of a soldier where they shouldn't kill a worker even so. Despite this, Dariel, who couldn't use magic, memorized every spell. He also remembered the time needed to recite a spell, so Dariel started his attack, starting from the troops with short incantations to those with long ones. Seeing that, the overseer panicked and asked his troops to use their strengthening magic, the stone hand. But Dariel easily destroyed it. Not only that, he easily countered the overseer's magic. In the end, the overseer couldn't do anything in front of Dariel, so he confessed that he was just a servant. But because he was too close to Bashbarza, he was appointed as a commander there. Therefore, the overseer spoke about the honor of a knight, saying that Dariel was not worthy of killing civilians like him. Hearing that, Dariel answered why the overseer still asked his troops to kill the demon kids, even though they knew about the honor of a knight. Therefore, Dariel decided to punish the commander. Then the overseer asked to leave and resign from the demon troops. Consequently, the demon troops were expelled by Dariel, so the demon kids were very happy with Dariel's victory. However, they were very worried because Bashbarza would definitely send his troops again. Nevertheless, the demon kids trusted that Dariel would continue to protect them. Meanwhile, Dariel lived happily in the village. As people there were sitting relaxed, gazing at their prospering village, Dariel received a visitor the next day. It was someone from the adventure guild in the urban center called Best Trade. Best Trade asked Dariel to assist in negotiating with the demon children regarding a business deal. Dariel had tried to speak with the demon children before, but they became wary when Best Trade was around. Best Trade's plea convinced Dariel to try talking to the demon children. When Dariel arrived at the mine, he said a few words, and the demon children happily agreed. After exiting the mine, Dariel met Feedbeaten's party, and his companions greeted him. However, Feedbeaten was still angry with him from a previous incident. Suddenly, a magical voice called the demon children, and unexpectedly, it was Lizard, a warrior from the demon nation. Lizard, not wanting direct confrontation, immobilized Dariel with magic. But when he realized it was Dariel, Lizard hugged him tightly. Dariel then mentioned an idea they could offer for a trade in Mithril. That night, Dariel brought Lizard to Best Corit, who was shocked to see him. Best Trade wanted to establish a business partnership with the Demon Nation, while Dariel intentionally wanted to cooperate with them to avoid conflict over the Mithril mine between demons and humans. Dariel informed Best Trade that the Demon Nation's Mithril needs were met, preventing attacks from the demon forces. The next day, a mechanical showdown occurred between Feedbeaten and Dariel. Feedbeaten brandished his mithril weapon, warning Dariel not to flee. However, Dariel showed only a small mithril dagger, which made Feedbeaten burst into laughter. Unfazed, Dariel focused on the mechanical duel for the sake of the demon children and the Lox village residents. He realized Feedbeaten was not to be underestimated and fought seriously. With determination, Feedbeaten declared he would wait until his grandfather made him a new weapon. Suddenly, Feedbeaten's armor shattered from an unseen attack. Dariel then pressed on, urging him to surrender. Enraged, Feedbeaten attacked, but Dariel's sword extended remarkably long and withstood the assault. Dariel easily cut through Feedbeaten's shield, revealing that his sword was unique to him alone. His sword could change shape according to his aura, making Dariel incredibly strong and overpowering. Feedbeaten was shocked as all his mithril weapons were destroyed, but he continued the duel with a sword. Despite his anger, Feedbeaten jumped into the air, but Dariel's attack, created with his whip, proved too strong. So in the end, thrown far away some time ago, Dariel recently made a request about his punishment. Let Dariel decide because he wants them to help repair the neighbor's house that was damaged due to the previous mechanic duel. Hearing this, Best Trade was very surprised because the punishment was very light, while Dariel explained that he also felt very guilty. Therefore, the punishment he gave was enough for him. Best Trade's goal in coming there was because he was afraid of losing Dariel's trust in the future. In his opinion, Dariel was very important, so Best Trade would offer a job at a guild in the city center. Hearing this, they were very surprised. That night, in the hot spring bath, Dariel was thinking about Best Trade's job offer earlier. Dariel was very grateful for the job offer because if he went to the city center, he would encounter many new experiences. He might even find his parents. On the other side, in the demon land of Grand Verza, while Bashbarza was doing his training, he was very surprised to see his father's recovery. His father explained that the wound from the hero's attack was starting to heal, and to speed up the healing process, he was doing exercises to be able to move freely later. Then his father invited Bashbarza to eat together and also invited Bossa to discuss the current situation of the palace. Not only that, he also talked about Dariel, who was being questioned by the demons. His father recounted that thanks to Elba's Tsubasa, Dariel was accepted as a successor. Although many demons objected because he was too easygoing and arrogant, his father asked about Dariel's condition now. Hearing this, Bossa tried to lie about Dariel's dismissal before, but his father became very angry because he knew what really happened there. His father was really angry at Bashbarza's foolish actions. Because he had released the perfect talent that Dariel had as an assistant to the kingdom, his father asked Bashbarz to apologize to him. Not only that, he also asked him to bring Dariel back to his kingdom. Hearing this made Bashbarz very angry and unwilling to do so. He even said that he would not depend on garbage like Dariel anymore. Thus, Bashbarz wanted to prove that as the son of Grand Verza, he would become the strongest lion in the kingdom. Therefore, he would succeed in becoming a general even without Dariel there. A year later, Dariel had become the head of Locke Village and also became the son-in-law of the former village head. Since then, Locke Village became even bigger and even the mithril mine became more prosperous. Unfortunately, Dariel had been abandoned by Smith due to his old age. It was evident with his child, a very cute and resembling his mother, named Grand. As for the reason Dariel took the name Grand, it was because he remembered someone who had cared for him in the past. He was even considered as his own father, Grand Verza. Then, while they were gathering, Gashida suddenly approached them. It turned out he wanted to convey that a hero would soon come to their village. Dariel immediately recalled a praised and admired hero by the humans there, but in the eyes of demons, this hero was merely a cold-blooded killer whom he always fought against. Therefore, Dariel referred to him as a heavily bearded hero. Dariel became very panicked and frightened because he believed that the hero's arrival in Locke Village was solely to eradicate him. As he was a former member of the demon army and now the village head, thus he had to welcome the hero who would soon arrive there. And so the villagers gathered to welcome the arrival of the hero. Dariel immediately put on a mask because he was afraid of being recognized. However, when the hero stepped out of the horse-drawn carriage, Dariel was shocked to see that the hero was a woman. The girl introduced herself as Raid, while her two assistants were named Sasha and Sadom. Raid explained that the previous hero had retired after being injured in a battle with Grand Verza. Hearing this, Dariel took off his mask, but suddenly Raid stared at him as if judging him solely based on gender and age. Raid remarked that fighting wasn't just for men, which made Dariel feel more intimidated by the girl than by the bearded hero. Raid then explained their purpose for coming, to order mithril armor. Not only that, she said it while peeking at the note in her hand. She then showed it to the heroes staying at Dariel's house. The next morning, Sadom greeted Dariel who was walking around, and as Raid was still asleep, Sadom tried to wake her up, eventually succeeding. However, as Raid was still not fully awake, she was speaking incoherently. She didn't even realize her shirt was half off. When she finally became aware, she went back into her room and came out again, trying to appear dignified, but her ribbon was upside down. Embarrassed, Raid quickly went to the mithril workshop with Dariel. Meanwhile, Raid and her assistants were amazed to see the mithril workshop, especially the mithril statue of Dariel's grandfather and the comically shaped mithril being forged. Dariel then promoted the finished mithril weapons to Sadom, who tried one by channeling her aura. The strength of the aura made her stagger. That makes Sasha want to try it too, but when she saw the two of them, it made Raid impatient to have a special weapon made for him. Not only that, they also had to make this special weapon for all their comrades, so Dariel immediately called Sakai, who was the disciple of the bald old man in the previous statue. Then Sakai greeted the lady hero by kissing her hand, but what was very ridiculous was that he ended up kissing the hand of her assistant instead of the hero herself. Sakai began to check the aura of the lady hero by using a technique of tickling the palm of her hand. Initially, Raid wanted to be angry with him, but he didn't do it because Sakai could guess the aura type of Surrey. Then the lady hero stated her second goal, which was to recruit new members to join her group. By coincidence, we happened to be there, so she asked to recruit her. Hearing this made Mr. Malika very excited and proud because his fellow villager would be recruited as one of the heroes in the party group. Therefore, their father wanted to hold a contest in which 26 adventurers in the village would directly fight against the party of heroes, which consisted of only 3 people. Raid would fight them using a wooden sword, Saddam would use a pot lid and a fork, and Sasha would use a tree branch to fight them all. Seeing this made the adventurers very surprised. But even though they used such weapons, unexpectedly the 26 adventurers were easily defeated there. Seeing this made the lady hero very disappointed. But shortly after, an attack came from the direction of the tree, and it turned out to be an attack from Geshida. Then Raid had hurried to approach her while avoiding her arrow attacks. And when Raid wanted to release his aura, he accidentally threw a tomato from Dariel. So Raid immediately stopped his fight right away, while Jacitha began to cry and told Dariel that she had been foiled. But Dariel tried to reassure her and immediately showed Jacitha's ranking, which had reached rank B. Not only that, Dariel also said that Geshida was the strongest adventurer in the village. Hearing that, Raid began to complain to him, so he asked Dariel to fight him there because he felt that the strongest person in the village was only Daniel alone. Even Raid did not accept a refusal to fight him, so he immediately attacked Dariel suddenly there, but Dariel easily managed to deflect his attack. He could even counterattack Raid. As a result, a fight broke out between the village chief and the young heroine, and Raid was very happy because his guess was correct that Dariel was indeed very strong. Therefore, Raid would be serious to fight him right now, so he immediately used his sword and prepared to launch his special technique. Seeing this, Dariel remembered a bearded hero, and it seemed similar to the aura of the young heroine's technique. Nevertheless, Dariel was still not afraid and immediately imitated the strongest technique, while Raid was very surprised because his technique was countered by Dariel's imitation technique. Then Raid became even more convinced that he wanted to recruit Dariel to fight the Demon King, but Dariel refused and left just like that. That night in Saddam's room, she told Raid that according to her thoughts, Dariel had a duty as a village chief, which was equally important as their duty as heroes. Meanwhile, Raid went out of his room because he had promised to meet Dariel there. Raid asked why Dariel could use a technique of a hero, and in his heart, Dariel said that he often saw the bearded hero using such a technique and he thought that the technique of splitting the wind was very easy. Then Dariel answered Raid's question, saying that he didn't know. As a result, Raid, who became very angry, attacked him there, saying again that Dariel, who had talent, should fight on the front lines against demons so that they could protect humanity from the threat of demon races in the future. Hearing that, Dariel answered that the reason why demon races fight is to defend themselves when heroes come to attack them. And that means if the heroes don't attack, there won't be any battle there, while on the other side in the land of demons, Sawsask is shown to be very troubled because he can't find Dariel's whereabouts until now. Not only that, Bashbarza has also disappeared somewhere and some of the tests no longer come to the meetings of the Demon King's generals. The next day, Rizit visited Dariel's house after negotiations about Mithril with the guild from the urban center had finished. It turned out the reason Zebian skipped the Demon King's generals meeting was because he was following Rizit there, and eventually he managed to find Dariel's residence. Then it's shown with Rizit being very fond of his son, Grand, so Rizit tells that thanks to Dariel, he's now considered a special squadron officer, a position equivalent to 4 generals of the Demon King. Hearing this, Dariel becomes very happy, but they are both very surprised when Zebian suddenly appears using his wind magic. Shortly after, Grand falls asleep deeply while Rizit is made a chair and sat on by Zebians. The reason he does this is because Rizit has been hiding Dariel's existence from him all this time. Soon after, Malika returns from somewhere because there's a special guest there. They prepare drinks for Zebians, but when they hear Zebians insulting Dariel, they become very angry. Zebians also gets angry because Rizit has been hiding things about Mithril from him. Therefore, Zebian starts following Rizit until he arrives in the village, and then asks Dariel to immediately hand over all the Mithril he has. Dariel immediately refuses his request because Zebians is not like Rizit, who has a very kind attitude. Zebians gets very angry and threatens Dariel, but suddenly Zebians becomes very scared when he sees Malika starting to glare at him, while Dariel wants the situation to calm down, so he takes Zebians out of the house without bringing them along. And when he was far from home, suddenly Zebians began to attack Dariel as a form of intimidation. Not only that, he also threatened that if Dariel didn't hand over the Mithril, Zebians would destroy the village directly. He even challenged Dariel to compete with him in mechanics. Hearing this, Dariel had to face him, whether he liked it or not. But before doing so, Dariel asked Rizit to stay silent and not to help him there, while Zebians mocked Dariel for using weapons to fight a woman. Dariel then jumped and started attacking him, using his fastest moves. Zebians was left powerless, and Dariel declared victory. This angered Zebians greatly, leading him to unleash his ultimate magic, which, if left unchecked, would destroy their village. Dariel then demonstrated his hero skill, the wind-splitting dragon, and wanted to save Zebians, who was about to fall from the clouds. However, Dariel ended up falling with him. Rizit then cast a water spell to provide them with a safe landing. Unexpectedly, Dariel grabbed Zebian's underwear, making Zebians cry loudly. Reluctantly, Dariel decided to give Mithril to him at a very low price just to stop his crying and anger over the previous events. Zabians promised that if Dariel could make a weapon for him from Mithril, he would stop crying. Then they both went to the hot springs. Not only that, but Dariel also introduced Zebians to Sakai there. However, Rizit suddenly informed them that it was getting late. Hearing this, Dariel was shocked because it meant the hero and his guards would soon arrive. He asked Sakai to stall Zebians while he would hold the hero back. He greeted the hero in a very impressive manner and asked Cecia to complete her mission, while asking Satomi to help them. Raid suddenly wanted to be trained by Dariel, swinging his sword 100,000 times. Dariel checked the presence of the demon general Zebians and found it safe, so he returned to Raid. Since Raid had swung his sword 100,000 times, Dariel asked for permission to bathe in the hot springs. Knowing the situation was safe, Dariel granted Raid's request. However, later on, Dariel found Sakai in a yellow basket and realized he had failed to contain Zebians. He apologized to his master. Meanwhile, Raid entered the hot springs and sat beside someone, not realizing it was Zebians. Zebians casually greeted him, unaware that he was addressing a hero from the human world. When they opened their towels, they realized who the other was. Panicked, Dariel intervened to stop any confrontation. Eventually, Dariel was interrogated by Raid and Zebians, who were victims of his actions, but fortunately they didn't discover the issue. They didn't mind because they believed Dariel had his reasons. Raid didn't expect Dariel to befriend a Demon King general. Dariel, feeling cornered, revealed that he was just a normal human, shocking Zebians. So, Dariel said, if he had been raised in the land of demons too. Hearing that made Raid extremely surprised. After a while, they came and told them everything. During Dariel's proposal to Malika, he honestly admitted that he was raised in the land of demons. Raid began to understand his situation now, but it was not appropriate for a Demon King's general to be in the land of humans. Therefore, Raid asked Zebians to leave immediately. However, Malika immediately challenged him and suggested they fight so they could understand each other better. Hearing this, they both agreed to her suggestion. Meanwhile, Dariel would determine the location of the fight, which would take place the next day in the Western Forest. Not only that, Dariel also set a rule that the loser would not be allowed to kill. However, Zebian still didn't accept his rule. Eventually, he agreed to Dariel's rule. The next day, Dariel, along with the others, went to the Western Forest, but they were surprised to see that Raid and Zebians had arrived earlier than them. Not only that, Sakai also became a victim of the two, forced to make mithril weapons for them overnight. Impatient to start the fight, they began their attack. But because their energies clashed, Saddam became exhausted and couldn't withstand the pressure. Saddam was surprised to see Dariel using the same skill as his own. Upon hearing this, Dariel said he was just imitating him a while ago. Grand woke up from his sleep, glanced at Raid's melon and Zebian's watermelon, and unexpectedly jumped to grab them. This caused a landslide, and Dariel immediately moved to protect Grand. Not only that, Raid and Zebians also protected him. Seeing this, Raid began to realize that a demon could have a conscience. Grand, on the other hand, was very happy. Therefore, Dariel assumed Grand was happy to see Raid and Zebians. Then they were shown the hero Cecia calling for Dariel. Not only that, he was very panicked. Dariel went out of his house and approached Cecia, asking what was happening with the hero. Upon hearing this, Cecia immediately informed Dariel that a great person had come to visit. Then Cecia introduced the legendary hero named Lord Aranzil. Seeing this, Dariel was very surprised to learn that Lord Aranzil was in their village. Soon after, Zebian sought their presence because he was very hungry. Seeing this, Dariel greeted Lord Aranzil, but Zebians rudely interrupted, causing Dariel to panic because Zebian's head was in danger if he offended Lord Aranzil. Dariel pulled Zebians aside and explained who Lord Aranzil really was. It was seen that the legendary hero had burn wounds on his chest from an incident of attack from Hellfire, which did not end previously. Therefore, Zebians wondered how Lord Aranzil could still be alive after that attack. Hearing this, Dariel explained that Lord Aranzil was an emotionless war machine. Lord Aranzil turned into a fierce mode when he knew about the demon race, and when the hero wanted to attack Zebians, Dariel, as the village head, stopped his attack because he didn't accept Lord Aranzil's intention to attack Zebians. Then the fight became inevitable, and as the village head, Dariel wanted to protect Zebians from the attacks of the legendary hero. Meanwhile, Mr. Aranzil easily crushed rocks using just a wooden stick. Not only that, Mr. Aranzil realized that Dariel was also a user of the four elements, just like himself. Dariel used his body to protect Zebians from deadly attacks. Mr. Aranzil saw the strength in the village chief. This prompted Mr. Aranzil to invite him to join as a hero. They would eliminate the demon race from the world. Hearing this, Dariel immediately refused Mr. Aranzil's invitation. Then Mr. Aranzil asked why the village chief was so eager to protect the nation from the demon race. Hearing this, Dariel explained that he didn't want to see anyone hurt. However, Mr. Aranzil felt that Dariel was too naive. Humans and demons had been killing each other for a long time, but Dariel still didn't want to see others injured. He explained that he had a valuable family, children, a wife, and 9 important friends. Therefore, Dariel would always try to protect them. Hearing this, Subian Tess was moved to tears, while Gashida immediately treated Dariel's wounds by bandaging them. Mr. Aranzil was surprised to see Dariel so determined to protect the demon race. Hearing this, Dariel explained that he was raised by the demon race. Meanwhile, Grand Barza faced the Demon King on his throne. Grand Barza asked the Demon King to withdraw his child. Grand Barza was amazed at his child's behavior, never leaving his room or responding to his subordinates' calls. The demon army was currently being handled by Doors. They couldn't let Bros, who was leading the troops, handle it alone. Hearing this, the Demon King asked if Grand Barza was okay with deciding his child's future. Grand Barza said he was ready to accept the consequences for the Demon King's army. Then it was shown that Dariel wanted to stop the fight between Aranzil and Grand Barza. Dariel began to say that he needed to talk to Grand Barza. Dariel spoke about his past. It turned out that Grand Barza had cared for and raised him since he was a child. Although Grand Barza was not his biological parent, Dariel had received love from him. Dariel would never be able to repay Grand Barza. In his heart, Dariel felt that Grand Barza was someone very dear to him. But for Grand Barza, Dariel was his savior, making him stronger. Suddenly, Grand Barza hugged Dariel, making Aranzil furious to see his biological child so close to Grand Barza. Grand Barza had usurped Aranzil's right to care for and raise Dariel. Aranzil should have felt the same closeness with Dariel. Therefore, Aranzil also became unforgiving of Grand Barzadi's actions there. Grand Barza then said that his friend, Basitin, could not be forgiven at all because he had separated Aranzil from his son. For this reason, Grand Barza accepted the punishment that Aranzil would give. Thus, the very sudden commotion stopped as they scolded the 2 parents. At the same time, Malika gave news that shocked Aranzil and Grand Barza. It turned out that Aranzil and Grand Barza already had a very cute grandchild there. Therefore, Dariel asked Grand Barza to continue his life while sending a message to his father, Aranzil, saying that although he couldn't relive his days as a father, at least he could still be a grandfather to Grand Barza's grandson. Filled with emotion, Aranzil immediately hugged his grandchild, wanting to express how lucky he felt to have her as his wife. Hearing this, they were extremely touched and immediately hugged Dariel tightly, so much so that some of their bones felt as though they might break. Meanwhile, Bash Barza was very surprised as to why no one attended his appointment ceremony as the 4th ruler of the highest sky. His servants reluctantly explained that the invited guests intentionally didn't come because they no longer trusted Bash Barza's words. Additionally, because of his actions, Bash Barza had caused chaos among the demon army, leading Grand Barza to ask the Demon King to remove Bash Barza from his position. Meanwhile, Fitbitin reported that the Mithril mine was being attacked by a group of monsters. Dariel asked Gashida to leave first, as she would follow shortly. Gashida hurried to carry out the order, while Dariel and her friends arrived at the scene and saw the chaotic situation in the mine. One resident immediately informed them that the demon children were trapped inside. Dariel rushed to rescue them. Meanwhile, Aranzil said that while Dariel was rescuing the demon children, they would deal with the monsters. It showed Aranzil assisting Dariel in rescuing the demon children. Upon arrival at the ruins, Dariel screamed in search for the whereabouts of the knockers. The demon children, upon hearing Dariel's voice, conveyed that they were still alive, while Lady and her friends were trying to fight the dragon but couldn't defeat it because it was too strong. Dariel came to help them face the fire dragon, and with a heavy blow from Dariel, the fire dragon fell. Dariel tried to talk to the dragon, but it suddenly flew away. Lady and the others checked on Dariel, surprised that the dragon had escaped. Grand Barza immediately asked Zebians for help to take him to the magic castle, where Bash Barza was relaxing and enjoying his tea. Bash Barza greeted Grand Barza and Zebians, discussing the forbidden places in his magic castle. This made Grand Barza pretend not to know about the forbidden places. However, Grand Barza became very angry and hit the wall when he saw Bash Barza engaged in his antics. Then Zabiantist asked about the forbidden place there. Therefore, Bash Barza immediately admitted that he had indeed gone to that secret place. After saying that, Bash Barza explained that the secret place was where he stored his forbidden mantras, because those forbidden mantras were extremely powerful, more powerful than any magic in the world. The ancestors were so afraid that the forbidden mantras would be misused that they decided to seal them away. Unwittingly, Bash Barza had broken that seal. Consequently, his father deeply regretted why he couldn't have raised his son better. However, upon seeing the legendary fire dragon Salamander, Grand Barza started to suspect that there must be a great power to summon such a legendary creature. It turned out Bash Barza had summoned it. Not only that, Bashbarza had also learned forbidden techniques which could erode the soul and mind of the user. Gradually, the user of these forbidden techniques lost their identity and became uncontrollable. Seeing this, Grand Barza expressed his disappointment with Bashbarza. On the other side, Dariel, accompanied by the Knockers, was searching for the whereabouts of the Adventure Guild's officer in the cave. In the midst of their search, they encountered a large creature which suddenly asked about their presence. Hearing this, Dariel didn't want to admit that he was the one being sought. Dariel led the demon children to escape, but the creature didn't allow them to leave. In order to prevent their escape, the creature closed the cave. Thus, Dariel and the Knockers returned. The creature mentioned that he was burned by his old friend, the fire dragon salamander, because of Dariel. Hearing this, Dariel admitted that he was the one being sought. Surprisingly, hearing Dariel's confession, the creature became astonished. Dariel, who seemed cowardly, suddenly became brave. Dariel asked for punishment for his mistake, so the creature had to endure difficulties too. Then Dariel asked why the fire dragon salamander was associated with him. The creature explained that the fire dragon salamander appeared because it was summoned by someone with deep-seated hatred. Then the creature asked Dariel to return his missing hammer. Hearing this, Dariel immediately took out the hammer which had been forged into his weapon. Seeing that his body part had been utilized so well by Dariel, the creature became very pleased. The creature then said he would reward Dariel because he was a rare individual. Then Dariel received a call from Grand Barza, who informed him that Bashbarza had used forbidden techniques to summon several legendary creatures to kill the heroes, especially the fire dragon salamander. Upon hearing this, Dariel declared that Bashbarza's target was him in the village of Lux. Soon after, Bashbarza appeared before Dariel with his friends. Dariel signaled that he would face Bashbarza, but when Bashbarza learned that Dariel was married, he threatened to kill his wife in the village of Lux. Dariel then transformed his weapon into a whip and restrained Salamander's body with it, while Bashbarza, seeing this, belittled Dariel's weapon. A fierce duel ensued, with Bashbarza launching consecutive attacks against Dariel. Meanwhile, the heroes were shown fighting against the salamander dragon, with Gashida trying to attack it directly. Aranzel expressed his surprise that demons and heroes, who were once enemies, now had to work together against the dragon. And when Aransir had said that, he approached the dragon using very fast movements, making it very difficult for Sanaga to follow Aranzel's movements. Aranzel then used his skills to shock the big dragon's body because he didn't want to be defeated by Aranzel. Consequently, Grand Barza started to participate in the fight by using his skills to restrain the dragon's body, causing the dragon to scream in pain from the grip of Grand Barzati's fire. Meanwhile, on the other side, Bashbarza was attacking Dariel, but Dariel managed to dodge the attacks. Not only that, Dariel also asked Bashbarza to stop their duel right away, but Bashbarza became increasingly angry and refused to stop the fight. In the midst of the battle, Bashbarza said he was sick of Dariel's incompetence in using magic. However, he, who mastered the magic, was always compared to Dariel. Then Dariel said he had nothing but the reason why Bashbarza always targeted him. Hearing that, Bashbarza became even more furious upon hearing Dariel's words, so Bashbarza said that Dariel always acted as if he had nothing, but in fact, he had everything. But Daniel's words did not match reality as far as Bashbarza could see, where Dariel always faced trials from anyone, had close friends and was dearly loved by Grand Barza. However, Dariel still claimed that he had nothing, which made Baso Basa feel like Dariel was always talking nonsense, as Baso Basa should be the one to be pitied, not Dariel, because he couldn't accept all of that. Thus, Bashbarza immediately unleashed his fire technique. Meanwhile, Dariel didn't just resign himself and immediately launched his attack using his sword to face the deadly attacks of Baso Basa. On the other side, the heroes were shocked to see Grand Barza using his fire skills to fight against the fire dragon, and it was evident that the body of the fire dragon had become charred. Meanwhile, from a distance, Grand Barza and his friends watched the powerful techniques of Dariel and Bashbarza. Some time ago, Dariel directly attacked Bashbarza, but Bashbarza was very surprised to see Dariel's technique that could repel his strongest fire technique. And because he was filled with anger, Bashbarza transformed into a demonic monster. Bashbarza immediately slammed Dariel into the wall of the hill, but the attack didn't stop there because Baso Basa immediately struck again. However, suddenly, Dariel entered Barza's memory house. Not only that, Dariel, who was standing amidst the descending community, saw little Bashbarza riding a carriage with Grand Barza and his mother. It was evident that all the villagers welcomed the glory of Grand Barza as one of the 4 heavenly rulers, while the little one was waiting for his father's return because Bashbarza felt very lonely as he couldn't always be near his father due to Grand Barza often being on missions. This made Bashbarza very happy when he learned that Grand Barza had returned from his duty, so in a hurry, Bashbarza opened the door to welcome his father's return. But unfortunately, Grand Barza was bringing sadness by raising Dariel as his son because Dariel always went on missions with his father, which made Bashbarza very sad. Therefore, Basubasa asked his mother for permission to join the Demon King's army so he could be with his father in the future. But his hope was immediately dashed because his mother didn't allow Basubasa to join the demon army as she wanted Basubasa to enter the Magic Academy. Thus, reluctantly, Bashbarza complied with his mother's wishes despite being burdened with various sadness, but he was determined to pursue his studies diligently to achieve great achievements. Bashbarza must be able to use his time to study because if he wins first place, Bashbarza wants to ask for something from his father later on. However, when a series of achievements that Bashbarza has received, his mother feels very unhappy. Not only that, his mother also said that Bashbarza is just like his father who always makes her feel lonely. However, Bashbarza does not want his dream to be double just like that because he has a dream to be by his father's side and also be his pride. And once again, sadness strikes Bashbarza when his moment of happiness is associated with Dariel's progress. Because in front of his eyes, Grand Barza immediately congratulated Dariel on his promotion there. Even Grand Barza also said that he was very lucky and proud to have a son like Dariel. And Grand Barza also said that in front of Bashbarza there in a series of praises from the father that should belong to Bashbarza are instead taken over by Dariel just like that. Then Dariel will also become Bashbarza's personal secretary, and that makes his sadness even deeper, while Dariel who is at home remembers that Bashbarza also feels lonely. Then Dariel murmured about what he should do because he wants to restore Bashbarza's happiness and drive away his loneliness because the power of magic makes him know the feelings of Dariel too. So Bashbarza became very angry because he was pitied by Dariel there, while the real one was very surprised when he knew that Bashbarza could also read his mind. After that, Dariel tried to eliminate Bashbarza's prejudice against him some time ago. Dariel said that Grand Barza has always been worried about clothes, but Bashbarza didn't believe in Dariel's words there. Therefore, Dariel told that Bashbarza's feelings are the same as his biological father's, namely Sirancel, where Aranzel feels that Grand Barza has stolen his togetherness with his son. Hearing that, Bashbarza immediately entered his memory room from it, and it was seen that little Dariel was very happy because he had a family like Bashbarza and Grand Barza too. Because the presence of Bashbarza in his life made Dariel even more enthusiastic, and that also made Bashbarza as his role model. But Dariel tried not to trouble his younger brother and adoptive father. Suddenly, Bashbarza's loneliness disappeared along with the influence of his demon monster, while Dariel remembered when Bashbarza was crying. He shouldn't have let go of his adopted brother's hand, and if he hadn't been so stubborn at that time, the story might have been different. Then Bashbarza returned to his normal form, and Dariel reached out to Bashbarza there, while Bashbarza tried to reach out to Dariel's hand. But the disappearance of the demon monster in Bashbarza's heart made the dragon monster uncontrollable again, so it immediately absorbed all of Bashbarza's forbidden magic power. Also because it was very dangerous, Bashbarza immediately flew towards the dragon to merge with it, while Grand Barza, who was in a panic, saw his son wanting to do a very dangerous move. All his sins by taking the dragon away from there. But everyone already knew that Bashbarza wouldn't be able to control the dragon continuously, because it would endanger Bashbarza's life in the future. So as a father, Grand Barza didn't want to lose his beloved son and immediately took over his magic command. Then Bashbarza was surprised when he saw his father's actions because Grand Barza would be in danger if he did that while on the other side. Dariel was using his sword to split the forbidden magic to save Bashbarza and Grand Barza as well, and at the same time, the disaster finally resolved. Not only that, it was seen that father and son hugged each other while Anvil felt that Malika was extraordinary after becoming a mother to Grand and realizing the return of her beloved husband. It made them immediately break the door of the house and rush towards Dariel. Meanwhile, Dariel became very confused about whether to avoid or accept his warm embrace, and it turned out that Dariel decided to be in Marga's embrace. At first, it seemed ordinary, but in the end, once again, Dariel had to feel his bones shatter all over again. Meanwhile, Zebiantist, along with the others, became horrified upon hearing Dariel's bone fractures, while Gashida became very anxious because Dariel had to receive their deadly embrace. On the other hand, in the Demon King's place, Bashbarza was being tried. However, Bashbarza didn't defend himself and immediately admitted all his faults. Then, the Demon King gave Bashbarza a choice, either to go to hell like other treacherous generals or become the ruler of the fourth heaven and start everything anew. Bashbarza chose to receive punishment in hell, seeing the sincerity in his heart. This made the Demon King decide not to put him in hell, but he had to expel Bashbarza from his demon kingdom, similar to what Bashbarza did to Dariel in the past. Then, Bashbarza immediately left the Demon King's residence. After that, Bashbarza was warmly welcomed by Grand Barzadi there, so Bashbarza, along with Grand Barza, visited Dariel's house. Dariel and his family warmly welcomed Bashbarza's arrival. However, Lady asked Bashbarza to take responsibility for all his faults. Bashbarza, who had repented, immediately bowed his head and apologized. Not only that, the father followed his son's actions. Seeing this, Lady's anger disappeared in an instant. On that happy day, Grand asked to be carried by Bash Barza. Everyone was surprised when Grand called Bash Barza by name and called him brother, so everyone was both surprised and happy. And for the first time, Grand could mention the names of others. To immortalize that happy moment, Dariel asked Gishida to paint them, and then the photo of Bash Barza together with the others was displayed. Some time later, the celebration party began, and it was seen that Bash Barza was surrounded by his fathers. Not only that, the joy illuminated Dariel's life, Bash Barza's, and others. After a long time of relationship, Bash Barza finally admitted that Dariel was his sibling. The next day, Bash Barza would begin his journey. Before leaving, Bash Barza would repair the Nithal mine and help the victims of his actions. Dariel immediately supported his sibling's noble intention. Then, they prepared a large amount of provisions. Not only that, he also hoped that the clothes could eat delicious food. Sometime later, Bash Barza bid farewell to everyone because he wanted to embark on his journey, and the anime ended.